From Anshe Sfard Beth El Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Purim. The Gemara in Megillah, page 12a, Yud Bet Amud Aleph, asks the following question. Shalu Talmidav et Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The students of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the great rabbi, the great mystic, asked Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Mipnei ma nitchayvu sonehem shel Yisrael sheboto hador klaya. Why was it that the enemies of Israel, a euphemism for Israel, why was Israel guilty in that generation to the extent that they deserve somehow to be wiped out from the face of the earth? Why was it that God threatened the Jewish people at that time with absolute annihilation in the days of Purim? Amar lahem imru atem. He says, why don't you say? Why don't you, the students, answer the question? Amrulo impnei shenehenu misudato shel oto rasha. Because they benefited from the meal of that great wicked man. Achashverosh, the king, is viewed as a wicked man. The Jews participated in his banquet, and for this they were punished with near annihilation, although in the end no one actually died. The Gemara goes on to discuss it, but this is one view of the Suda, that somehow the Jewish people participating in the meal of Achashverosh was very problematic. What was it about the participation in this meal that was so problematic? Was it that there was not kosher food? It seems from later on in the Gemara that there were so many different opportunities, so many different options of different types of food that were available at the meal of Achashverosh, that you could even have kosher food there as well. That was not the issue. The issue was, according to some, that there were the kelim shonim, that there were different vessels that were used there. How different were they? What sort of vessels were used? The rabbis answer that these were the vessels of the Beit HaMikdash, of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, which made all other vessels pale in contrast. The gold and the silver vessels from the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. And therefore, for the Jews to demean themselves, to participate and partake of a meal where their own vessels from their own Holy Temple are being defiled, this was a disgrace to the Jewish people, and for this, God threatened the Jewish people with annihilation. However, we have in the Midrash, as opposed to the Talmud, two other views as to what happened at that time. One view is, Gedolei Adar Ayusham Uvarchu. And indeed, the Jews had attended that meal, but when they saw the licentiousness, when they saw the immorality, when they saw that the vessels of the temple perhaps were being used, they were there and they ran away as fast as they could, because this was no place for a good Jewish boy. This meal was no place for them. According to this view, contrary, the Jews were not participating in the meal of that day. They actually, the great sages of the day, ran away from that meal. They would have nothing to do with it. And then there's a third opinion, which is very intriguing. They say, oh yes, the Jews were there at that meal, but what happened? Amar Lon, so Achashverosh the king said to these Jews, he says, is it possible that your God is going to do for you more than this? He says, why don't you join me in my wickedness? Because why are you so righteous? Because you expect that in the world to come, you'll be rewarded greatly for your righteousness. He says, wait a second. How are you going to be rewarded in the world to come? Can God possibly offer you anything greater than that which is right here? Can He offer you something more than this grand meal, this grand Su'udah, with such opulence, with seats of gold, and the legs on the seats are from silver? I mean, can you find anything of greater opulence than this? Can you ever achieve and aspire to anything greater than what I have here in my palace? The rabbi said to him, the Jews said to him, Ayin lo ra'ata Elokim zulatecha lamachakeh. He says, are you kidding? They say to Achashverosh, no eye has ever seen that which we will be rewarded with in the world to come. When it comes to the world to come, there's something much greater than what there is in this world. Im kisuda zuho sel lanu, anu omrim lo, kvar achalnua al shulchanoch shel Achashverosh. If God will, in the end of days, make us a meal that's only as grand as the meal which you're presenting to us today, you know what we'll say to God? We'll say, this is not good enough. We expect something greater because we already ate a meal to this degree in the days of Achashverosh. We expect something even greater. Achashverosh was trying to impress the Jews with the allure of the great culture of Persia and what he had to offer. Achashverosh was trying to lure the Jews in and to say, this is the highest, the epitome of any human achievement. This is the best enjoyment you can have in the whole world, even in the world to come. Came the Jews and turned to Achashverosh and they said, Achashverosh, this meal is beautiful. Your palace partakes of the greatest opulence possible in this world. The amounts of gold and silver, the tiles on the floors and the walls are absolutely out of this world. But you know what? That which a Jew aspires to and hopes for, not only in the world to come, but even in this world, the spiritual pleasures which are available to the Jewish person, to the person who partakes of the Torah, there's no comparison between what you can offer and what we are looking forward to. This is something which those who mechakeh, those who wait for it, have something much greater to aspire to. You can't lure us in with what you wish to share with us. I'd like to suggest we have here a debate between two views. One view said that, you know what? The Jews of that generation, they went to that meal, and when they saw such great opulence, they enjoyed it so much, they thought that this was the ultimate. This was what we've all been waiting for and aspiring for. The golden Medina, the great golden country. The Jews had finally made it. We had come to the ultimate of our history and the apex of all of our aspirations. Second view says, no, on the contrary. That yes, the Jews were perhaps at that meal, perhaps briefly. They were there. But when they saw all the great opulence of Achashverosh and all the 227 provinces that he had, they looked at it all, and yes, it was very impressive, very amazing, grand beyond belief. But you know what? They turned to Achashverosh and they turned to each other and to their own heart and they said, this world can offer lots of comforts. A Jew can find themselves, whether it's in America or California or in Hawaii, you can find yourself in the lap of luxury. But you know what? That doesn't scratch the surface. It doesn't reach the toes of what we have to look forward to, what's offered to us, the spiritual benefits, the spiritual pleasure available through a life of Torah, through a life of observance of Torah, the study of Torah. This is something way beyond anything that Achashverosh, or for that matter, the modern Achashverosh and the modern society has to offer. We, hopefully a mechakim, we're waiting for something even greater. Many Jews had lived for centuries in great poverty, and they began to think that if only they would have their own state, if only they would have freedom of religion and worship, if only they would have freedom from anti-Semitism, that would be the ultimate, and that would be the end of all dreams. America, the end of all dreams. Simple freedom in the land of Israel, the end of all dreams. But we know that the ultimate dream is way beyond that. Yes, to have freedom, yes, to be free of anti-Semitism, yes, to be free in our own land, yes, to be sovereign in our own land. But there's more than that. And that, something even greater than what we can imagine. This is something even more pleasurable than the greatest banquet of Achashverosh. It's something more spiritual, ethereal, something we're all looking forward to. May it be speedily in our days, where we attain and achieve and understand what the greatest true pleasures are in this world. Thank you for joining us for our discussion of Purim and the meal of Achashverosh. Please join us again each week. We'll have another presentation about Purim coming up next week as well. Feel free to email me at rabbijmf@gmail.com. And thank you for joining us at the Anshe Sfard Beth El Emetz congregation in Memphis, Tennessee. And thank you to Jason Lefkowitz for making today's presentation possible. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.